What was the worst thing you ever jerked off to? I was pretty young, about 8 or 9 years old. I was too young to ejaculate, but old enough to feel an interesting sensation from my hose. Sometimes I'd play with it, though without any result. One night, I came out of my room. My parents were watching something on TV in the living room. It was a black and white film, and I saw a bunch of naked people walking, then falling into one big naked pile. At that moment, my parents noticed me and shouted for me to go back to my room because kids weren't allowed to watch what was on TV. I thought it was some kind of adult movie. That scene often popped into my imagination during my juvenile, fruitless attempts at self-satisfaction, an enormous pile of naked people. Of course, many years later, I saw that footage again and recognized the scenes that had burned into my childish mind. To my regret, it was a documentary about World War II. The naked people had been killed and piled up to be buried in a mass grave. When I was 15, I liked a girl I was very close to. As a joke, we'd send each other our drawings, and it seemed like we both enjoyed this communication. One time, while we were exchanging messages, she jokingly sent me a voice message where she called me senpai, which I really liked, and moaned. Naturally, I jerked off to her voice saying my name with those moans. You think that's the end of it? Nope. She asked what I thought about it, and I shyly said I didn't know. But she knew I liked anime, just like she did, so she figured it out and started teasing me, saying I was jerking off to her voice. After some time, we realized we liked each other. Now we're dating, and it's not just about her voice anymore. Man, I wasn't that old, but it was a wrestler from a game, WWE SmackDown on the PlayStation 1. There was a female wrestler character, she seemed so cool and hot as hell. I think I'd do it again if I got my hands on that game. I suspected my girlfriend, who I'd been with for 10 years, was cheating on me. To confirm it, I started tracking her in various ways, including monitoring her Skype calls. The cheating was confirmed. Among the evidence were audio recordings of intimate Skype sessions. I was devastated and ended the relationship. I fell into a deep depression. Although I was very angry and suffering, a part of me still loved her and missed her. A couple of times, I listened to those recordings and jerked off, imagining she was saying those things to me because I could only get an erection by hearing her voice. Every time after that, I cried and felt so worthless. A long time ago, I played Metal Slug 3 on the PS2. In that game, there are larvae that burst and kill your character with their blood. When using a female character, you could catch a split-second glimpse of her breasts. That, along with her screams, really turned me on as a teenager. There was an article in a women's magazine urging self-checks for early breast cancer detection. It talked about feeling your breasts, so, being a 14-year-old teenager, I unzipped my pants and supported the cause. I'll always remember how the article ended by suggesting finding a friend or two to periodically remind each other about self-checks. They called this person a breast buddy. I finished, muttering, "I'll be your breast buddy." 16 years later, that memory still pops into my head. I went to China without a VPN and couldn't find anything, so I opened a drawing app, drew some boobs, and jerked off. One time, my mom took my phone so I wouldn't get distracted while doing homework. I got bored and decided to jerk off. The problem was, I didn't have my phone or anything else. I ended up staring at a stock image of a girl on the cover of my math textbook. It was insanely weird. I accidentally jerked off to my cousin who was in adult films, which no one knew about. I realized it was her after I finished. One drunken night, I told her about it, and she asked if I liked the video. I said yes. A very attractive schizophrenic woman left her top at my place. I was really in love with her, so I kept it and covered my face with it when I jerked off. Eventually, I got the chance to get into her panties. She took off her shirt and pants, and suddenly I saw horrifying sores and wounds on her back, extending to her buttocks, even past the waistline of her panties. I bolted out of there, came home, and threw the damn top in the trash. One time, I was home alone, and a tennis match between two women was on TV. One of them was Maria Sharapova. She's pretty hot. When she hits the ball, she makes loud, sexy moaning sounds. The other player, Yelena Yankovic, was also making loud moans. So, I jerked off to these women playing tennis, imagining I was rolling around with them. Pure madness, the nurses from Silent Hill. No regrets. I think it was Silent Hill 3. They were pretty attractive if you didn't look at their faces. But if we're talking about Silent Hill 1, I'm worried about you. A friend sent me a message with a photo of two women lying on their stomachs, sunbathing. Both were in thongs, and he asked which as I found more attractive. I said the one on the right. He asked a few times if I was sure and if I didn't find the one on the left hotter, but I insisted the right one was better. He said, okay, and I decided since I had a photo of two great asses in front of me, I might as well have some fun. I went all out, threw away the tissues, and relaxed. Later, my friend sent a message saying, "You passed the test, congrats," with a fuller version of the photo. Turns out, he took the photo from my sister's Instagram. She was in it with her friend, the friend was on the right, my sister on the left. So, I made the right choice, but I was embarrassed because, while I mostly jerked off to the friend's ass, I occasionally glanced at my sister's, not knowing it was her. I started worrying I'd accidentally crossed into forbidden territory. Now I'm very cautious about photos friends send me. It was my Sims character taking a bath. I was 12, and I thought it was super hot. In The Sims 1, in my mode, you could pick up the shower while they were bathing and move it. It caused a mosaic blur effect, but you could still see the characters naked. It was like looking at a Barbie doll's head, but I still jerked off to it once or twice. I worked in an auto shop when I was about 14. All my co-workers were grown men, and they hung up those provocative calendars everywhere, you know the kind. One day, I was so horny I stole a Playboy magazine from the main office. I hope they didn't notice, but that piece of art is still mine. When I was about 13, I didn't have internet and couldn't sleep without relieving some tension. Above me was a wooden bookshelf with a wood pattern that vaguely resembled a vagina. So, I jerked off to the wood. When I was 15, my mom and I visited one of her friends, a beautiful woman with a great body. I went to the bathroom, which was across from her room. I noticed a laundry basket, looked inside, and saw lacy white thongs. I sniffed the crotch area, and my little friend stood up immediately. There was lotion in the cabinet, so I used it as lube and came pretty heavily on the thong's crotch. Then I did something really stupid. Instead of putting the thongs back in the basket, I took them to her room and placed them on the shelf with clean clothes. On the shelf, I also noticed black thongs and slipped them into my pocket to use for the same purpose later that evening. I think she figured it out because the next time we visited, her bedroom door was locked. She didn't say anything about it, but she acted weird, so I knew she understood I'd messed up her panties. In my case, the worst thing wasn't what I jerked off to, but the timing. A few months before this incident, my grandmother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. We lived in another state, so we had to travel to her. It had been a few days since I last relieved myself, and I was alone at home for the first time, so I took advantage of the situation. Right in the middle of it, I got a call saying they'd taken her off the ventilator, and it would all be over in a few hours, though it might take a day or two for her body to pass naturally. Halfway to the finish, I got this weird gut feeling and thought, damn, I'm so unlucky, my grandma's probably going to die right when I'm jerking off. And that's exactly what happened. 5 minutes after I finished, the phone rang. She had passed 5 minutes earlier. My relatives were furious that I wasn't there. Sorry, Grandma. Earlier, I had a couple as roommates, and when they got it on, she moaned really loudly. One night, I woke up half asleep and started jerking off to the sound of her insanely loud moans. After that, I did it regularly. Also, while living with those roommates, I'd sometimes take her panties when no one was home, wrap them around my hose, and jerk off. What I described in points 1 and 2 happened a few years ago. I'm not proud of it. Third, my brother's wife asked me to back up old computer files from her hard drive after her computer died. I went through the photos in the folder, nothing nude, just party photos and such. Some had great shots of her cleavage and big breasts. I jerked off to a few photos of my brother's wife. I'm not proud of that either. As a teenager, I got turned on by the smell of my sister's friend's feet when she took off her leather sandals. It was a really hot day, and the smell was definitely there, no regrets. A woman in my mom's magazine who had cancer was bald but had such a beautiful face, so I couldn't resist. While reading the article, I jerked off, and at the end, it said she had died. So I looked at the ceiling, smiled, and said, "I'm coming on your beautiful bald head, can you see it?" I was a pimply, chubby 14-year-old. Not exactly proud of that one. I jerked off to Tinkerbell towels hanging in the bathroom. This happened back when I played Star Wars: The Old Republic. Our guild leader was super hot and had a matching voice. I was really horny at the time, so while she was explaining a boss fight we were about to do, I opened her photo, muted my mic so no one could hear me, and jerked off to her. The bad part was that I and 2 other guys were the best fighters in our guild, so the success or failure of the mission mostly depended on us. That situation made me lose focus, and we failed the fight 4 times in a row before finally succeeding. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new, super honest discussions. Become our patron via the link in the description and listen to our episodes in the background without ads or censorship, plus extra spicy episodes that didn't make it to YouTube due to platform censorship. In the meantime, check out our other videos.